All right, let's get right into it. Something huge is happening in the world of global trade. The US and India just hammered out a deal that is making waves everywhere, from financial markets to their biggest economic rivals. So let's break down what's really going on.
Okay, let's start with the headline number, the one that's got everyone talking. After what felt like ages of tense disputes, the United States has just made a massive move. They've slashed the tariff on most Indian goods from a really staggering 50% all the way down to 18%. I mean, that is a gigantic shift in policy.
And believe me, this was not some small tweak buried in a government report. Nope. This announcement got a huge welcome right from the very top. India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, came out and publicly thanked President Trump. That right there signals a major breakthrough after things had gotten pretty tense.
So what's the big deal with this number? Why is a change in a percentage causing such a commotion? Well, we're going to dig into what this deal actually means for one of the most important economic partnerships on the planet.
First, just a super quick refresher so we're all on the same page. A tariff is basically just a tax a country puts on goods coming in from another country. It's a really powerful tool that governments use, to protect their own industries and to push their foreign policy, mostly by making those imported things more expensive for you and me.
Now that 50% number, it tells a much deeper story. See, it wasn't just one tax. It was actually two different tariffs piled on top of each other. There was a standard 25% base tariff, but then there was this extra 25% penalty that was aimed specifically at India because of its ongoing purchases of Russian crude oil.
So this huge drop from a combined 50% all the way down to just 18%, that's not just a discount. You can think of it like a new strategic weapon. It completely reshuffles the deck and gives India a powerful new competitive edge on the world stage.
And right here is where you can see that new advantage in black and white. At 18%, Indian goods all of a sudden become cheaper to bring into the US than products from their key regional competitors. I mean, look at China. They're facing a steep 34% tariff. Bangladesh and Vietnam are both at 20%. India now slides right in under all of them. And this new advantage, it is an absolute game changer. Why? Because the United States is India's single biggest trading partner. We're talking about a massive market for their goods. So any little shift in how competitive they are here sends these huge ripples through their entire economy back home. But, and this is a big but, this is where the story gets a lot more complicated. According to the US side of the announcement, this wasn't just a simple tariff cut. No, it apparently came with a whole list of really significant conditions that India had to commit to. President Trump laid out 4 key things he said India agreed to as part of this deal. 1. Completely stop buying Russian oil. 2. Slash its own tariffs on US goods all the way down to 0. 3. Commit to buying over $500 billion worth of American products. And 4. Give US agriculture much greater access to the Indian market. And this right here, this brings us to the absolute core question of this entire story. The US has been crystal clear about these conditions, but the response from India, it's been a little more, let's say, nuanced. It really makes you wonder, are both sides actually talking about the exact same deal? Okay, let's zero in on the biggest difference. President Trump's statement said very clearly that Prime Minister Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil. But if you look at all the public statements from India celebrating the tariff cut from Prime Minister Modi and other officials, they haven't confirmed that. They haven't even mentioned it.
And it doesn't stop there. On that point about India cutting its own tariffs to 0, India's Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal, has actually come out and publicly promised that sensitive parts of their economy, especially agriculture and dairy, which employ millions of people, have been protected in these talks. So, with these big disagreements just kind of hanging in the air, let's pivot to what we know for sure, the immediate, real-world effects of this deal and what the path forward might actually look like.
The reaction from the financial world was instant and honestly overwhelmingly positive. India's big stock indexes, the Sensex and Nifty, both shot up over 2.5%. The Indian rupee got a lot stronger against the US dollar. It's pretty clear that investors see this whole thing as a huge win for the Indian economy. Industry experts are already pointing to these specific areas as the biggest winners. Think about it. These are industries that employ a ton of people, and we're getting hammered by that 50% tariff. This new 18% rate is expected to bring back a flood of orders and seriously boost exports for everything from clothing and shoes to jewelry and carpets. A deal like this doesn't just happen overnight. It's the result of a really tense period that kicked off back in August 2025 with that tariff shock, that 50% rate. That was followed by months and months of intense, quiet, behind-the-scenes talks, all leading up to the breakthrough announcement we just got.
And that whirlwind journey brings us right back to the central challenge hanging over this whole deal. As rating agencies like Moody's are pointing out, a complete and immediate stop to buying Russian oil, which is a key U.S. demand, would be a really, really tough move for India. It's something that could seriously disrupt the country's economic growth.
So here's the bottom line. What we have is a landmark agreement on a tariff cut that gives India a real, tangible economic advantage. The big question, the one everyone is asking, is what did it cost? With the full details of the deal and all its conditions still being debated, the real story to watch now is whether this is the final, finished deal, or just the very first bold step in a much longer negotiation.